Brad, welcome to Bases 2025. And you're coming over to enjoy a beautiful, wonderful winter in England. We could bring you to the northwest of Ireland for a wonderful winter in Ireland. But you've been around the world and you've done lots of different things. And we last saw each other at the Full Disclosure Now conference. And as a result of that, I'm wanting to do something similar here. It's sort of an idea with Brian. So we're going to see how this thing goes and move things on this side of the pond to a much higher level of what the hell's going on. So what are you going to do with this then, Brad?
That's great, Miles. Yeah, I'm super looking forward to it. Hey, I survived Antarctica 7 years ago, so I think I can handle December in the UK or winter in Ireland.
But you also know Hugh Newman, and I'll be doing something with him in the Origins conference on the 1st of November. So he's just down the road and I supply the tech kit, which always works.
Yeah. Yeah, he's great. And we're gonna take a look at Stonehenge and Newberry or what's
Avebury.
Avery
Now,
Henge.
there's a young
And
woman over here, and she does a show with this guy called Richard C. Hoagland. For God's sake,
oh
don't you
yeah.
drop the C. If you don't drop the C, you're in trouble. And he has been having a lot of trouble getting on air. But the main thing is that she's done this magnificent work about Stonehenge, and she's going to be at the conference in December as well. So you have done so much work on all this. So tell us what you're going to do, and then you want to talk about the black goo as well. And that's where the thing with Randy comes in.
Okay, great. Well, my new book is coming out, and I should have advanced copies to take with me to the Bases conference in December. It's called Secrets of Antarctica, the Untold History of the Ice Continent. And I have a Black Goo chapter, but it goes into all the other mysteries of Antarctica, which I will present at the Bases conference. Everything from what really happened at Operation High Jump and why they made a hasty retreat 2 months into the 6 month expedition to what might be below the ice, including some maps that I have come in contact with a research assistant over in Europe as well of the German U-boats charting out what lies underneath the Antarctic ice sheet and going well deep into the interior of Antarctica with their U-boat submarines. And on the maps, it says, you're heading towards the lighthouse of Agartha. So I think we've got a smoking gun here, Miles, that there really is a high-tech civilization, not only on Earth, but under the ice of Antarctica.
Now, have you heard of a guy called Nassim Haramein?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We went to South America together. I was with him before I went down to Antarctica.
Well, then you would be fully acquainted with his sort of toroidal
Yes.
view of the way planets and things. I've just been eating a peach, and that's a toroid. I
Yeah.
mean, it's nature. So maybe you had a chat about things, and maybe they were private chats. But listen, you can tell me anything that you had a chat there. Nobody else is listening.
Absolutely. Well, Nassim is one of the most prominent new physicists who is bringing out ideas about free energy and the toroidal nature of not only everything like the peach you just ate, but also the planet Earth, including two giant holes in the Arctic and Antarctic region. One of the other chapters in my book is about the hole in the ice, the giant miles across hole in the ice, about 35 miles from the South Pole. It's in the no-fly zone. You can't even take a snowmobile across this no-fly, no-go zone, which doesn't
Now,
make sense.
now, really, Brad, uh, that's just a load of nonsense because we all know that was just because the satellite photographs didn't manage to get that picture because when they were taking all these pictures and printed them in all those books, it was just the edge of the photograph and there's none of that sort of thing going on there. You may have
Well,
another view.
Well, Miles, I have pictures of on Google Earth where they have specifically masked off areas, and they didn't even use Photoshop to try to blend in the surrounding terrain. It's just a big rectangular mask. And I've gone on Google Earth many, many times looking for this hole in the ice. They won't show it to us. It's top secret. It is patrolled by the NSA, which in America is, well, we call it the No Such Agency
Well,
because
I
they
don't
do.
know what you're talking about because there is no such agency. But
Yeah, yeah, no, we're talking.
on that very subject of Google Earth,
Yes.
there's a person had a daylight was driving down in Northern Ireland. He was driving down to South Armagh, going to Newry, and on 11 o'clock on the morning, blue sky, everything fine, and he stopped at a T junction to turn right, and this being walked across in front of him, had a queer look at him and said, What are you?" Both were equally surprised and walked off. When we did the little chat about that, we used Google Earth, and on the blue sky, blue sky, blue sky at at that junction, there was a UFO caught by the Google camera, which is sitting there, blue sky, no clouds. There it was. When we did that particular interview and it went public, guess what happened? Within weeks, you have if you went back there in weeks, you had blue sky, heavy cloudy day, same road junction. That one picture was swapped out. It wasn't as if they were trying to hide it, but that's an example that Google doesn't always show what you would like it to show.
No, but I think it does show that they are hiding stuff. And I
Yes,
have
absolutely.
proof
That's the
that they
point.
hide stuff in Antarctica. And so what else do they hide? Oh, for example, if you were to go on Google Earth right now and go to, say, Pine Gap in Australia or Area 51 in Nevada, you'll get a blurred out image. They'll give you some, but they won't give you everything.
Well,
So there are certain
yeah.
areas, yeah, that are just, they won't let you see what's really in there.
Well, here in sunny Wiltshire, there's a place here in the East Field where the massive crop circle occurred, which was used on the Led Zeppelin album. If you can remember that album cover, that's the East Field. It's one of the famous fields. Underneath that, there's meant to be a portal and a massive base. But a little further east, there's a thing we all called the Spaceship House, and it's on Rothschild. It's a Rothschild summer house. It looks like the lunar modules just landed in the middle of the thing. It's a bright steel and glass structure, and you can see that. But up the road from there, literally in the forest, is this big mansion house for the Rothschilds. But you won't see that on Google Earth.
No, see what I'm saying?
It's there.
It's selective editing. There's some things you can see in even private homes. Like you said, there's an area in Switzerland outside of Zurich called Zug, Z-U-G. It's where all the billionaires have their mansions, and those two, some of them are blurred out. So you gotta question, what are they doing in these houses?
Well, I better be careful when I sit outside here. But this is we're having a bit of a laugh on this, but this is very serious. Your work's really serious. You've done lots of books. Now there is a brilliant bookshop in Devizes who I'm sure would be able to sell your book called
For
Devizes
sure.
Books, surprisingly. And it's run by a brilliant lady who's the princess of Devizes, and she can get a book within 6 hours sometimes. She's brilliant. So
Great.
that's a great private independent bookshop. So,
Hmm.
so what else are you going to be discussing?
Well, I mean, we're talking about one of the greatest enigmas on planet Earth, and that is what is going on down in Antarctica, because there's just so much misinformation or misunderstandings about what it is. I mean, people call it the flat Earth and that there's an ice wall. Well, Miles, I went down there 7 years ago on a sailboat. I can tell you there's no such thing as an ice wall. That's just make believe. A wall implies that it goes straight down to the ground below the water. That's not true. They're ice shelves. They're giant. We saw them.
Did you
Went right
did
up to them.
I mean Wiltshire is the home of a used to be the home of the brilliant author Terry Pratchett. As you well know, there is a turtle underneath the ice, and is held up by four. We're held up on Discworld on 4 by 4 elephants. Is that
Turtle
right?
Island. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
Native
is that right?
American
Yeah.
legend too.
I mean, obviously that
And
must be true if he wrote about it. But what about distortion effects? I mean, when you say there's a hole there, is it a dimensional thing where you do go in underneath, but you've got to have the right key? I mean, is it where reality blurs or merges? I mean, what would Nassim Haramein say? And more importantly, what do you say?
Well, Nassim would agree with me that this is one of the toroidal entrances to this inner Earth. But we're not even talking about deep well into the mantle of the planet. We're just talking about underneath the ice. And Antarctica is the most volcanically active continent in the world. So, with geothermal features underneath the ice, you would have the propensity for these very large under ice domes. You would need a chimney for the heat to escape. And so, it could also be a natural phenomenon. So, just a little context where it's located. This is in eastern Antarctica, the large old plate that broke off from Pangea that's over 3 billion years old. And Western Antarctica is the long arm that connected during perhaps the last pole shift event. But on East Antarctica, there is a ice shelf. It's called the Polar Plateau that's over 2 miles thick. Okay, so the South Pole Station, the Amundsen Scott South Pole Base, rests on top of that polar plateau at 11,000 feet, so over 2 miles above this continental landmass. So this hole goes all the way down, and one of Linda Moulton Howe's whistleblowers named Brian S., he flew over it. And Linda has helped me with this book, and she turned me on to Brian S. We had a good long hour conversation a couple months ago, and I asked him to describe it to me. And he said that there were snowmobile tracks and cat tracks from the base that went into this forbidden zone, this no fly and even no overland travel zone. And get this, Miles, when they were doing an emergency evacuation, they had to get a guy out, and the fastest way was to cross over the no fly zone. And that's when they all saw it, the whole crew. It's this giant hole, miles long, well big enough to drop a plane into, but there's a road that corkscrews down into it. And
Oh, that
so
off
there's
there.
also land access.
Jesus, Brad, that whole road that goes down into the whole thing. You couldn't make this up. But this is continue. This.
Okay. Well, remember in 2016, 2017, all the elites were going down there,
Yeah.
including Prince Harry. And he goes down with all his army buddies. He goes to the South Pole and they go cross country skiing for a week. Okay, well, what we're told is there's nothing on the polar plateau for hundreds of miles in all directions. But I think they got permission to go to the hole in the ice, maybe even cross country ski down that road a little bit. And so some people get access, and this is what is known as the Illuminati Disneyland. And there are also three known very large motherships down there that this same NSA agency, which is tasked only to protect UFO secrets or crash retrievals, the NSA, which was created right after Roswell, to deal with anything UFO related.
Well, just as you mentioned that, Gene Decode does a lot of things, and he mentioned something about a collapsed road here in Wiltshire, just up the road from here.
Hmm.
And it was nothing going on here type of a situation. But speeding along, the reason why that road had collapsed is because it's beside a facility called MOD Lynham, where they were flying all the for it while it was still with the RAF. They were flying a lot of the people over from Afghanistan, and they would land there at Royal Wootton Bassett. I understand from sources that there was a gate, a dimensional gate there, Stargate, and it used a power supply from a crashed Draco ship in Antarctica. And this is the British got this. And they were using it to run this thing, and it went AWOL. So there's a lot of radiation that day, and a lot of collapsed roads. They've only fixed the road in the last couple of weeks, but it goes to show that there are a lot of things that are happening there, and some of them end up here, and sometimes they go bang.
Mm. Yeah. Well, who is it? Barry King that talked about the Peasmore base.
The Peasmore base, and
Argue.
one of the people, there's a guy called in the secret space program thing. He was interviewed by one of the British colleagues here, who actually has done a lot of work with one of the other speakers, some American guy called Draco Reed, and
Oh yeah,
they
I know, well,
yeah
we know
Draco.
Drago. He
Yeah.
was at our conference.
He's going to be speaking on the Friday night. We've extended it so we
Excellent.
can just get going.
Yeah.
They did an interview with a guy a couple of days ago called "The Man with the Periwinkle Eyes," and he talked about Peasmore, and that's just a coincidence. So that's up the road from where we are. We've got quite a few of all these sort of things around here, and hopefully you'll be able to maybe run around and see some of them with Hugh and things. Have you been to this part of the world before? Have you? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to Stonehenge, but I didn't go to Avebury or Glastonbury, which I'd like to see. And as close as we could get to Peasmore, I'm
Well,
very interested in
with
underground
luck,
bases
you'll
too.
be able to go on a mission with Maria Wheatley, and I was there
Oh, yeah, I
doing
know
some
Maria.
photography because she has got the science. She's gone to university. She's seen these extended skulls about the origins of who long-skulled people who built Stonehenge, but also a graveyard which the MOD have been very disrespectful of. It's the 400-foot long barrow, and there's a mass grave of all these beings in there, and there are a couple of them, a couple of other ones, and they've nailed a wire gauze over the entire surface part, and now planted thorn bushes to prevent people from getting access to that. Maybe Maria might be able to take you to that. That's a burial of hundreds of long skulled people who were all
Wow.
dispatched, and they are the original. And that's a whole different story. And hopefully, we'll be able to have lots more of those stories at the conference.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know Maria. She's great, and
She's
hopefully
a
we'll be
brave
available.
woman. Don't
Very.
cross her, right?
And I think
Don't you
we can all
mess with.
agree that these long burrows were not just a burial tomb for one ancient king. A lot of them have archaeoastronomy alignments that you can see the sun from the winter solstice come shining through. I mean, that's not a coincidence. Like Newgrange in Ireland and many others around the British Isles have these archaeoastronomy features. So that
Well,
again, another cover up. This is just
well, the idea that these are just a
over the
bunch of
fact that these
hillbillies
are very ancient
in
sites.
grass skirts and bare feet is just
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's just they're highly knowledgeable people. But there is an island on the way down to Antarctica called Thule Island. You wanted to talk to
Yes,
somebody
sir.
about that.
Southern Thule Island. Well, in my research in the new book, I found out that the Germans were using it as a stopover point, as well as using the whole South Sandwich Island chain and the South Shetland Islands, which is the Georgia Island and South Shetland Island. Those were colonies, as well as the Falkland Islands. During World War II and right after, they were moving thousands of people out of Germany on the U-boats. There were more U-boats that were made in Germany in 1945, the year they lost the war in May, than
Well,
all the years combined.
they lost it. I'm wiggling my fingers. Does that mean quotation marks?
And so I've come across research that they were using these islands, these far-flung islands, as well as the bases in Antarctica to move people out of Germany because they knew they were losing the war in 1943. So they had about 2 years to get all the high technology out, and then a lot of scientists and other personnel who were fleeing Germany. And hundreds of thousands of people have gone missing. They still don't know where they were. Well, now we can say they went down there. So one of these locations, which also had a connection with the U-boats, is South Thule Island. And I would propose that it was the Germans who were the first to discover a cave there that contained the black goo.
Well, that was the whole point of the Falklands War.
Yep.
Michael Shrimpen has also done some work on that, and he's a local author. He's just published his book, a third the third edition of the secret German intelligence. It's a
Mm.
secret. We don't know about it.
Secret.
But
Secret's out.
that island is where the Marine who actually the Commando Marine, the British sent down two destroyers, a cargo ship, and a submarine, and they raided that base, blew the living hell out of it. Before they did
Right.
that, they took up to 400 crates of this sentient oil, and the Commando who blew it up has stood just here, just just over there. Well, not there, maybe just a bit over. Now
Yeah. Put
he
your arm around him.
yeah, that's it. He's just over there, right? And he explained all this, but he took a bit of a hammering, and so they've shall we say punished him for saying that. But that is where that was the whole point of that this sentient oil, so-called black goo, because the Germans in the southern hemisphere had found these meteors which came in, and some of them arrived in Ireland. But
Mm.
this sentient oil, when they tried to, and this is what we're getting around to Randy's thing about this, is that sentient oil was they tried using it to weaponize it, and there were a large number of Marconi scientists who died as a result of that because the sentient oil did not want to be doing bad things, and those are the so-called Marconi deaths.
Yep.
That's all in the public domain.
Right. Of course, you've had David Griffin and Harold
Yeah,
Kotzvela
yeah,
on Bases program. I've watched all their videos. They have incredible information. Of course, they too say this is what the Falkland Wars is all about. And the battle group separated into two ship formations. One went and fought the very highly publicized Falkland Wars, but the other armada of ships went down to the South Shetland and South Thule Island. And as David Griffin and Harold Kotzvela and yourself and other guests have said, the whole thing was Operation Keyhole to secure the black goo.
and that's thanks to just referencing Alec Newell, I think, published the
Yep.
first work on that, and that was through Nexus magazine, and that was a long time ago. But the key to this is in terms of what's just happened with Randy, which is why he can't come for the conference, is that they wanted to weaponize this and it wanted to do negative things. What's happened is, according to what he said, and there's 25 minutes of him explaining this, is that the sentient, the AI will not emerge. It will not be modified to us above a certain level. If it's going to be faced with bad tasks, it stops. It automatically
Mm.
stops at a certain level, like stage 5. But if it's allowed to progress on a good role, it's beyond exponential what's happening as of 5 days ago. So
Wow. That's new
this
information
is
for
a
me.
war
That's really
between the
interesting.
AIs, good and bad, and humanity is sort of a side issue. So that's his words. So something very very big is happening on this regard, and hopefully
Mm.
we'll be able to get well. December's still a few weeks away, so we'll who knows, who knows.
Well, I hope we can get Randy to come out. He's a great speaker and
Yes,
such
he
a
is.
great knowledge.
He's a very reserved young man who really has great difficulty in expressing his opinions on anything. Okay, we got a few minutes left. Anything you
Well,
want
say
to get
this.
across to this is because we'll not wait. I'll not waste time explaining. But what other things have you got in the works and your books and things like that?
Well, certainly the Secrets of Antarctica book is coming out very, very soon. So I'm just finishing the index on that, and then it's going off to the printer. So I'll have copies by December. But one other point on the black goo and the Nazis perhaps being the first to discover it is they knew that it had components that, when ingested, would help make the person ingesting it have super soldier abilities. And David Griffith was talking about this as well as Harold, that and you told me this in Florida too,
Yeah, yeah.
that they were using it on all the bases to try to enhance their elite soldiers and make them even more battle hardy. And down in Antarctica, we know there's cloning labs as well as what the Germans were up to to make their own grade of super soldiers.
And of
And
course,
remember,
yes.
Operation Tamerlane was when the British were spying on the Germans. And when I went to the Palmer Peninsula in Antarctica 7 years ago, we went to two bases that were former spying stations of the UK, spying on the Germans, trying to pick up their radio signals and anything else. And Operation Tamerlane, they actually sent out a crew. This was also in Nexus magazine, and they were repelled by what they call these snowmen, these humans, but were very hairy, but were not human. They were just way too durable, and they were chasing them all over the place.
Are
The
we talking
British,
like abominable snowmen or Sasquatch
well,
or
not
something?
like a Bigfoot. No, they're
Oh.
they're more like human, but enhanced. Just like, and so I would propose that they had gotten their hands on this black goo and were using it to start their own first generation of these super soldiers that would not only be able to withstand the harsh climates in Antarctica up on the surface, but also have much more endurance for space travel and the Nachtwaffen, the Dark Fleet. So these all have their origins in Antarctica, and
Well,
so on
as we're running out
cover,
of time, we'll just have to get people to go to the conference and listen to what you're going to
yeah,
say, Brad. It's just
it's going to be great. Yep, all
so,
this
and
stuff and
it's a
so
great
much
honor
more.
to be able to have you guys over, and it's good fun as well. Being
Oh yeah,
we can say these things and wait for somebody else to sort of who knows. As we say, UFOs are of no defense significance because we've been dealing with them for a long time.
yes
So
we
you're up.
have.
So that's good to talk. It's brilliant, good fun.
Absolutely, Miles,
And where
and
do
so
people
much
get your
more.
books and what sort of things that you've got to do? Well, we've got a couple of minutes left.
Sure. Yeah, my book website is cccpublishing.com. And all of my books and other authors like Michael Jaco, Laura Eisenhower, Leo Lyons Zagami, who I think has been on bases, as well as Lon Milo Duquette, and a lot of other highly esteemed esoteric writers, which is the basic slant of CCC Publishing and the books we do. But also, I was a travel writer for many years, so I did books on sacred places, and I've been to the UK a couple times in Ireland, checking out some of the locations there too. So, a great interest in ancient structures as well as all the weird and wonderful things in the realms of UFOs and bases. So, I think that's why you and I have gotten along so
Well,
famously,
it's
is because
brilliant.
we just
Well,
have such a great interest.
there's a brilliant guy called Andrew Power, and his book was called Ireland, Land of the Pharaohs, and that man Michael Tazarian, who also comes from the island. Um, um, Maybe there's other mysteries there to yet to be unfolding.
Ah. Oh, I think there's a lot of mysteries all around the world that have yet to be unfolded, and so many that have just been covered up and not given us the full picture on what this is all about. So I've got great hopes for a wonderful conference in December. I look forward to seeing you again. I think you got a great lineup of speakers, and we're going to shed some light on some very, very interesting subjects.
Well, it's all made possible because Brian Singh put on a couple of really good conferences, and I'm very honored to be invited out there a couple of times, and that's a big deal. And we're going to push the boundaries, and that's going to be the main aim of doing all this. Thank you very much, Brad.
Well, thank you, Miles. Thanks for having me on, and we can do it again if we've got time before December, or we'll
Yeah,
save
well,
good
I
stuff
think
for.
with this other little thing flying around space, there's nothing happening up there. Nothing going on.
Oh boy, that's the other thing.
I
Right
mean,
around the
it's
time,
changing by the week. I think it's going
it's
to
changing by the day.
by the day,
Three high
but
atlas. Wow.
we have no idea what you're talking about, nor do I.
Well, just in closing, what do you think it is? Can you give a?
I had a very odd feeling about it. I thought that what Kerry had, to be fair, I thought what Kerry and David Serrato were talking about on Richard Hoagland's show, he couldn't get on this show because his power kept on be cutting off. Um,
Yeah.
I felt it was not what they were saying, but it definitely is something odd. But as the speaker that I've got at Glastonbury in a couple of days' time, Syed Noah, His data shows that the sun disk moved 12,500 odd years ago, and we're in the same region of space for that to happen again. And when the sun disk moves, of course, the sun doesn't move, we do.
Right.
And that's what's encoded in the whole point of he'll be saying this in small audience in a couple of days' time. Syed Noah, former administrator at Luxor, and he's an Egyptian archaeologist speaking Egyptian in Egypt, and he lives just round the corner here. So
Wow.
he's going to be talking in Glasgow in a couple of days, and we'll see how that all pans out.
And you know the Three Eye Atlas is doing all kind of very weird rotations. It looks like it's intelligently guided. Carrie Cassidy is absolutely convinced it's some kind of
I would say
artificial spacecraft.
I wouldn't put it past the Nachtwolf and sticking a bunch of engines on the end of a big rock and just sending it in for a bit of.
Well, and because it's getting so much publicity, and Avi Loeb out of Harvard, they say the quickest way to Washington D.C. is take a left at Harvard. That he could be a disinformation agent or setting up the Project Bluebeam. So I don't think we're out of the water
Are
yet
you
for the fake
suggesting
news.
that the government might fake something?
Wow, can you imagine that or not tell us the
Yep.
truth? No,
Bruh, really?
no. Sorry to shatter your
This
world,
is
Miles.
conspiracy theorist. I'm going to go and have a pint of Guinness or a cold shower. I wonder which one I might
Yeah.
have. Well, have a good time, Brad.
Yeah, absolutely, Miles. We're living in very interesting times. And just from now until the conference, I think there's going to be a lot of changes in the world. And
Maybe,
we're going to have a lot more to
maybe,
catch up on.
as some lady said, maybe we're in for a bumpy ride.
Hmm, maybe.